Welcome to this edition of the virtual SpaceTV 3D show. I'm Amanda Bush, your host. This time we dedicate most of our show to the recent SpaceX demonstration flight as part of NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services program. James will report about a solar eclipse and a rare celestial event, the Venus transit. In the early hours of May 19th, a Falcon and a Dragon waited eagerly to leap into the sky from Cape Canaveral. Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, or SpaceX as it is known, had its Falcon 9 rocket with the Dragon spacecraft on the pad. They were to lift off on a test to prove that the system was capable of regular cargo flights to the International Space Station. This would be only the third launch of the Falcon 9 rocket and the second flight of the Dragon. It would be the first with all of its systems installed, such as its solar panels. The mission was important not just as a test of SpaceX hardware but also as a test of NASA's policy of obtaining its access to low Earth orbit from commercial space transportation companies. Initially cargo, and later crews, will fly on vehicles designed, built and operated by private firms. NASA works in close partnership with the firms and provides part of the development funding, but the agency is essentially buying launch services just the way a communications company would buy a ride to space for its satellite. The goal is to obtain significantly lower costs so that NASA can use more of its limited funds to pioneer space beyond low Earth orbit. The pressure on SpaceX was tremendous. Though it is normally assumed that test flights will experience problems of various sorts, opponents in Congress and the space industry of the commercial transport policy were ready to pounce on SpaceX and the Obama administration if anything went wrong. We will devote this program to the mission of Falcon and Dragon and to its implications. The countdown on May 19 went down to 0. The engines roared, giant balls of smoke billowed high into the air. And then, nothing. The launch was aborted just half a second before the hold-down clamps were to release the rocket. Pressure in one of the 9 engines on the Falcon booster had exceeded its safe limit and the launch was ended before it started. A quick diagnosis of the problem found a bad valve, which was replaced in time to try again during the next launch window 3 days later on May 22. To minimize loss of fuel during the Dragon's trip to the ISS, there was only a near instantaneous window in which to off from the pad. After the valve failure, there were concerns raised that with 9 engines there might be many such launch cancellations. However, on its next try, Falcon did lift off exactly on time into the Florida night sky. Video transmitted from the rocket showed the engines performing well. In the webcast from the SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, cheers could be heard from the crowd of employees as each crucial event in the launch took place. After the Dragon was in orbit, a huge roar went up as the crucial solar panels were deployed successfully. The Dragon was now ready to go after the ISS.
Solar rays have deployed.
Deploying. This is a great moment. Of course, this is just the first step of a very complex mission.
Power global.
But from all accounts, we have Dragon orbiting the Earth with the solar rays deployed. We have a couple days worth of really difficult challenges before we get to the station, but there's both solar rays are deployed. Dragon is performing nominally. And we are looking forward to a great mission here to the International Space Station. Hopefully become the first private company to service our international community at the space station.
Over the next 2 days, the Dragon's orbit gradually brought it near the station. During this time, there were tests of the navigation and control system, the thrusters, and other systems to show that the vehicle could rendezvous safely with the station. On May 24, the Dragon got within a couple of kilometers of the station. There it began additional tests, including a fly underpass below the station to check communications and other systems. Over the next several hours it then did a slow loop around the station. On May 25 the Dragon at last began its final approach to the station. In carefully planned steps, the spacecraft got closer and closer. The Dragon repeatedly was commanded to move a short distance and then stop. Sometimes it would step away from the station before resuming its approach. After dealing with the problem with a laser ranging system, the Dragon finally moved within reach of the robotic arm on the station. Under command of crew members, the arm locked onto a handle on the Dragon and it was at last captured. Slowly the spacecraft was brought up to the docking adapter where it was attached and locked into place. For the first time, a commercially built and operated spacecraft had connected to an orbital space station.
This is Mission Control Houston at 11:02 a.m. Central, 12:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Second stage capture is complete at a mission elapsed time for Dragon of 3 days, 8 hours, 18 minutes. The Dragon spacecraft now part of the International Space Station complex, the first ever commercial spacecraft to visit the International Space Station and the first U.S. spacecraft to visit the ISS since Space Shuttle Atlantis last July.
On Saturday, May 26, the ISS crew opened the hatch to the Dragon and entered the spacecraft. Astronaut Don Pettit said the inside smells like a brand new car. Although this was just a test trip, the Dragon did carry several hundred kilograms of cargo in case it succeeded in berthing. Over the next couple of days, the crew systematically unloaded the material and then loaded it up with experiment materials, unneeded equipment, and refuse for the trip back. Dragon is currently the only vehicle that can return substantial cargo from the station to the ground. The hatch to the Dragon was closed on May 30th, and early the next day the crew began the process of disconnecting the vehicle and then moving it away from the station with the robotic arm. It was eventually released and the Dragon moved carefully away from the station. A few hours later, Dragon did its deorbit burn and began its blazing descent through the atmosphere. Thermal cameras on the chase planes over the target zone in the Pacific Ocean showed its drogue chute open up, and then the three big beautiful primary chutes were deployed. The Dragon soon splashed down into the sea a few hundred kilometers from off the coast of California. It was picked up by a barge waiting for it and it began to be towed to the port of Los Angeles, from where it would be flown to a SpaceX facility in McGregor, Texas, for inspection and unloading. The first commercial cargo flight to the ISS was complete. The extremely complex and demanding mission had been executed flawlessly. The success of the SpaceX Dragon mission to the ISS is a huge milestone for commercial spaceflight and for spaceflight in general. It opens the door to significantly lower cost access to space. Competition is a key aspect of this. SpaceX is just the first company to reach the station. Orbital Sciences, which also has a contract for cargo delivery to the station, will do the first test flights of its Antares rocket and Cygnus spacecraft in the coming year. Companies in NASA's Commercial Crew Transportation program also continue to make progress. In just the past week, Sierra Nevada Corporation did a captive carry test of its Dream Chaser lifting body crew vehicle. Drop flight tests will begin later this summer. Commercial spaceflight took a big leap upward with the Dragon mission. The coming years should bring rapid progress as the flight rates grow for SpaceX and the other firms. Now over to James C. Birk for news from the Sun. James?
Thanks, Amanda. Perhaps it was a good omen for SpaceX. On May 20 there was an annular solar eclipse that projected a shadow over much of the eastern hemisphere of the Earth. At its maximum, the Moon blocked all of the Sun except for a narrow ring, or annulus, around the edge. Lots of beautiful and striking photos were taken of the eclipse. The shadow on the Earth was even visible to the crew of the ISS. On June 5 and 6, a far more rare celestial event occurred when Venus crossed in front of the Sun as seen from Earth. It takes a rare alignment of Venus and Earth for this to happen. The next such transit will not take place till December 2117. Remember, never ever look directly at the Sun or through unfiltered binoculars or a telescope. Instead, you can project the Sun's image onto a screen with binoculars or a telescope, or with just a small pinhole punched into an opaque board. Back to you, Amanda.
That's it for this time. Stay updated with the latest space news on www.hobbyspace.com. Your comments and suggestions are welcome at amanda.bush@binary-space.com. Stay tuned.